The Evolution of a Bad Boy, written by Susanna Thompson, narrated by Sarah Sampino. Chapter 1. Dylan knew within the first half hour of their date that the rumors about Cameron weren't true. He could see it in the guarded way she held herself around him. She also kept sneaking glances at Jake, who was obviously extremely jealous that Cameron was out with Dylan. He played his game of seduction with her anyway, even though he knew that she wouldn't end up in his bed tonight. He had nothing better to do, and she was much hotter than her usual tomboy attire had led him to believe. Dylan preferred wild girls because they were sexy and exciting, and he didn't have to wait for what he wanted from them. Yet flirting with Cameron turned out to be more fun than he had anticipated. There was a thrilling moment when he knew that he had broken through her defenses and made her hot for him. It was only a kiss, and she soon became distracted by Jake, but it gave him a taste for the challenge of a good girl. He decided that this would be his new way of amusing himself when he was bored at school. Dylan was going to pick a good girl and flirt with her. There was no point in trying to continue anything with Cameron, because she was completely into Jake. He would offer, of course, but he was sure that she wouldn't take him up on it. No, he would pick some girl that didn't have a boyfriend. Boyfriends could be a problem, but he had risked it before if the payoff was worth it. This time it wouldn't be, because he didn't plan to sleep with the girl. Despite his reputation, he wasn't that much of a dick. He wouldn't use some innocent girl that way, not when he had his pick of willing girls. This was just going to be seduction without actual sex. It was going to be harmless fun both for him and the girl he chose. On Monday, he did the opposite of what he usually did. His eyes skimmed past the girls he usually looked at and lingered on the girls he usually ignored. He realized that there were a lot of girls that weren't on his radar due to the demure way they dressed and behaved. Some of them seemed painfully shy and blushed when he made eye contact with them. He watched them, wondering which one to pick. Many of them didn't realize how cute they were and were oblivious to the glances that they received from equally shy guys. To make it a bigger challenge, Dylan decided on the one who seemed to be the most shy and quiet around boys. He learned that her name was Melissa, and he followed her to her locker at the end of the school day. "Hey, Melissa." He was standing behind her as he spoke. She looked like a startled doe as she turned to face him. He stepped closer to her, and she immediately backed up. Dylan smiled at her and introduced himself. He asked her if she would like to go to a movie on Friday, and her brown eyes got even bigger. She seemed to be frozen in shock, but she shrank away from him as he reached out a hand to touch her cheek. "Leave her alone," a female voice ordered. Dylan turned to look at the girl standing beside Melissa. Her name was Celeste, and she was a good girl too, but she wasn't shy like Melissa. She was their student body president, and she looked pissed. "Mind your own business," Dylan said. "It's my business if I see a fellow student getting harassed." Her blue eyes were blazing in anger. His own anger flared. "I was just talking to her." He tried to resume his flirty tone with Melissa. "I wasn't bothering you, was I, Melissa?" No," she stammered. "I have to catch my bus." She fled before he could offer her a ride. Dylan glared at Celeste. "What's your problem?" "You were trying to touch her, and she was obviously scared." Celeste looked haughtily at him. "She has enough sense to keep her distance from you. Too bad so many other girls don't." The reason he had been so successful at seducing so many girls was because he could read a situation and change his tactics accordingly. He realized that Celeste would be an even bigger challenge than Melissa. "Are you jealous?" She fixed a look of contempt on him. "Of what? All your meaningless one-night stands?" He stepped closer to her, but she stood her ground. "They're not one-night stands. They always come back for more." "That just proves that they don't learn from their mistakes." She wasn't getting flustered and breaking eye contact. He was used to girls who were confident in their powers of attraction, but Celeste was confident in a different way. She would definitely be a challenge, but he had already gotten her attention.
"Have you ever lived in the moment?"
She snorted. "That's your line? Well, you get points for originality. At least you didn't call me baby or tell me how great you are in bed." He smiled.
"When you're good at something, you don't have to compliment yourself. If a guy tells you he's good in bed, that's a sign that he's not. If you want to know about me, the other girls will tell you. Or you can just find out for yourself."
"No thanks," she replied breezily. "I have no desire to be a notch on your belt." This was too good of an opportunity to pass up.
"I'm not wearing a belt,"
he replied smoothly and lifted his shirt to show her. Her eyes involuntarily dropped to his waist, and she looked away quickly. It was the first chink in her armor, and he decided to quit while he was ahead.
"It's been fun, Celeste, but I've got places to go and people to do."
He was sure he felt her eyes on him as he sauntered away.